Have you ever thought that your English is too difficult to learn? What if just 30 minutes a day could change? In today's inspiring English story, you'll follow Daniel's journey from frustration to confidence as he learns English through reading, listening, and speaking. The 30-Minute Promise, an inspiring English story about learning, patience, and never giving up. The Dream. Daniel was 26 years old and lived in a small town surrounded by green hills. He had a simple job, a small apartment, and a quiet life. But inside his heart, he had a big dream. He wanted to travel. He wanted to meet people from different countries. He wanted to read books in English, understand movies without subtitles, and apply for better jobs. But there was one problem. Daniel could not speak English. Every time he opened an English book, he felt nervous. Every time he watched an English video, he understood only a few words. And every time he tried to speak, he was afraid of making mistakes. One evening, Daniel looked at his old notebook and said, "Maybe English is not for me." But deep inside, he knew that he did not really believe that. He simply did not know where to start. The difficult truth. The next morning, Daniel decided to try again. He opened an English learning application and started a lesson. After 10 minutes, he became frustrated. There were too many new words. He didn't understand the sentences. He listened to the audio several times, but the words seemed too fast. Daniel closed the application. "I'll start tomorrow," he said. But tomorrow became the next day, and the next day became the next week. Daniel suddenly realized something important. He wasn't failing because he was not intelligent. He was failing because he was waiting to feel motivated, and motivation did not come every day. The old teacher. One Saturday morning, Daniel visited a small public library. While looking for an easy English book, he met an old English teacher named Mr. Thomas. The old teacher noticed the English book in Daniel's hands. "Are you learning English?" he asked. "Yes," Daniel replied. "And how is it going?" Daniel smiled sadly. "Not very well. I think I'm too slow." Mr. Thomas looked at him and smiled. "Slow is not the problem," he said. "Stopping is the problem." Daniel listened carefully. The old teacher continued, "You don't need to study English for 5 hours every day. You need to study when you can, and then come back tomorrow." Daniel asked, "How long should I study?" Mr. Thomas thought for a moment. 30 minutes. "Only 30 minutes?" "Yes, but promise me something." "What?" "Do it every day." The 30-minute promise. That evening, Daniel took a notebook and wrote, "My 30-minute promise." He divided his 30 minutes into 3 simple parts. 10 minutes, reading. He would read a short English story. 10 minutes, listening. He would listen to the same story. 10 minutes, speaking. He would read some sentences aloud. It looked simple, maybe too simple, but Daniel decided to try. The next morning, he woke up 30 minutes earlier than usual. He read 1 page. He listened to a short story. Then he stood in front of the mirror and spoke English. His pronunciation was not perfect. His sentences were not perfect. But he continued. The first failure. For the first few weeks, Daniel felt excited. He learned new words. He understood simple sentences. He even began speaking to himself in English. But then something happened. One morning, he woke up tired. He didn't study. The next day, he was busy. He didn't study again. Then he missed another day. Soon, 3 days became 5. Daniel looked at his notebook. He felt disappointed. I knew it, he thought. I can't do this. He almost stopped. Then he remembered Mr. Thomas's words. Stopping is the problem. So Daniel opened his notebook again. He did not try to study for 2 hours to make up for the lost days. He simply studied for 30 minutes. And the next day, he did it again. Small changes. Months passed. Daniel's English did not suddenly become perfect. Something better happened. It became easier. Before, he needed subtitles to understand simple videos. Now, he could understand some parts without them. Before, he needed a dictionary for almost every paragraph. Now he could understand the general meaning of a short story. Before, he was afraid to speak. Now he made mistakes, but he kept talking. Daniel discovered an important truth. Progress is often invisible at first. A tree does not become tall in one day. A language does not become easy in 1 week. Learning happens quietly. 1 word, 1 sentence, 1 page, 1 conversation at a time. The first real conversation. One afternoon, Daniel went to a small coffee shop. A foreign visitor was sitting at the next table. Daniel heard the man speaking English. Normally, Daniel would have looked away. But this time, he took a breath. "Excuse me," he said. The man smiled. "Yes?" Daniel asked him where he was from. They started talking. Daniel made mistakes. He forgot some words. Sometimes he stopped to think. But the conversation continued. After 10 minutes, Daniel walked home with a huge smile on his face. He had just had his first real conversation in English. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And that was enough. The opportunity. A year passed. One morning, Daniel received an email from an international company. They were looking for someone with his experience. The job required English. Daniel read the email 3 times. A year earlier, he would have closed the message immediately. But now he smiled. He prepared for the interview. Every evening, he practiced answering questions in English. He listened to interviews. He learned professional vocabulary. He practiced speaking in front of a mirror. Finally, the interview day arrived. Daniel was nervous, but he remembered something. He didn't need perfect English. He only needed to communicate. The interview. The interview began. "Tell us about yourself." Daniel took a breath. "My name is Daniel. I have several years of experience, and I'm passionate about learning and improving." He continued. He made a few grammar mistakes. He searched for some words, but he didn't panic. He communicated. He showed confidence. He showed determination. A few days later, Daniel received another email. "Congratulations!" He got the job. Daniel sat quietly for a moment. He remembered the young man he had been 1 year earlier. The man who thought English was impossible. The man who was afraid of making mistakes. The man who kept saying, "I'll start tomorrow." Daniel smiled. 30 minutes a day had changed his life. The lesson. Several months later, Daniel returned to the same library. Mr. Thomas was sitting in his usual chair. Daniel walked toward him. "I got the job," Daniel said. The old teacher smiled. "I knew you could do it." Daniel sat beside him. Thank you, he said. Mr. Thomas shook his head. You should thank yourself. Daniel looked confused. The old teacher continued. I only gave you an idea. You are the one who kept the promise. Daniel looked at his old notebook. The words were still there. 30 minutes every day. He finally understood. Learning English was never about being talented. It was about being patient. It was about accepting mistakes. It was about coming back after difficult days. And most importantly, it was about refusing to stop. Final message. Daniel looked out of the library window and smiled. His English had opened doors he had once believed were locked forever. He could communicate with people from different countries. He could read books. He could understand videos. He could apply for opportunities. But the greatest thing English had given him was not a job. It was confidence. Daniel had learned a lesson that he would never forget. You don't have to become great in one day. You only have to become a little better every day. 30 minutes may seem small. One word may seem small. One page may seem small. One conversation may seem small. But small things repeated every day can create extraordinary results. Start today. Learn a little. Keep going. Your future self will thank you.